You guys are listening to the Jordan Garber Now podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jordan Garber Now podcast. You guys are listening to us on many platforms, whether that's Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Breaker, Deezer, among many, many others. Podcast Addict, I can go on and on and on. And today we have absolutely a huge show jam-packed for you guys. We have none other than, I'm just going to announce it right now, right at the end of this card. The first thing is first. We are literally having, coming up next, the CWE preview with none other than former CWE champion Hotshot Duggan. As well, Winnipeg wrestling legend Cory Diamond talks about his huge matchup against fellow wrestling Winnipeg legend EZ Ryder as he breaks this match down with us too. As well, we have none other than an interview with former Reality of Wrestling champion, the man by the name of Q. And I'm just going to announce it right now like I said I was going to. Our main event for tonight is none other than WWE legend, UFC legend, and former world champion, none other than Dan the Beast Severn. It's all coming up next on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Enjoy the show. Are you looking for the best vehicle for your needs at an affordable budget? Well, Hickman Auto Sales and Financing has exactly what you're looking for. Choose from a wide variety of vehicles like the 2012 Hyundai Tucson GLS, the 2016 Chrysler 200LX, and the 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe. All trades are accepted and paid off, and child tax, pension, disability, EI, social assistance, or self-employed are all approved. Low payments of $0 down. For more information, call 204-898-3511 or visit HickmanAutoFinancing.com. Tell them Jordan Garber Now sent you. All right, guys, we have the official CWE preview show for Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal here on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. And we are here with none other than the man himself, former CWE champion, none other than Hotshot Duggan. How's it going, man?
It is going wonderful, Jordan. I'm never in a better mood than when I'm talking to the Garber Snake.
Well, you know, we have a great history with CWE, including the Snake Pit that we remember taping back in 2015 and 2016, so I always enjoyed doing that, and it's great to have that reunion, but let's get right down to business. You know, there's a great show lined up.
Business, Jordan. We don't have to jump right into business now. When we talk about a history, I have a history with you like I have with no other wrestling journalists out there, Jordan. Not only have we done the Snake Pit,
we've traveled the roads.
Traveled the roads up and down. We have been to the strip clubs of Wisconsin, Jordan.
We have. Absolutely, we have.
We have seen some sights. We've done some things.
No, absolutely. I think out of all...
This bond is tight.
No, it certainly is, and you know, without your mentorship, you know, it definitely wouldn't. I still wouldn't be podcasting. You know, you definitely been a huge component to that, but not just to me, but hundreds of the other CWE fans, and that includes new faces coming. And Bryce Bentley made a very impressive debut last show, and he's coming back for the second time here in the CWE. What are your thoughts on him as a veteran of the business, seeing this rookie play his game here?
Well, I'm really excited to see what the future holds for Bryce Bentley because I was the one that was brought into the Elite Wrestling Academy to kind of test his will, so to speak, to see if he was ready to get inside a professional wrestling ring and make his pro debut. He's been training for a good, year now with the Canadian Crusher, AJ Sanchez. They thought, I think he's ready for in-ring competition. So I went down to the Elite Wrestling Academy. I got in the ring. I'd barely met the man before. I didn't shake his hand. I put on my boots. I rolled in the ring, and I wrestled him for a good 20 minutes and tested him to see what he had. And he kept it coming. He kept up with Hotshot Duggan, and not a lot of guys can do it, and he showed a lot of fire, a lot of heart, and a lot of ability. And I said, this guy's ready to go. He's obviously green and inexperienced because he hasn't, had his professional debut at that time yet. But I knew once he got it and he started getting some matches under his belt, this is going to be a kid to look out for. And he debuted at the Labor Day Weekend Wrestling Classic against Kevy Chevy. And you want to talk about a debut match? This isn't promoter hype here. This is the truth. I don't think I've ever seen as good of a debut match for a wrestler coming out of wrestling school ever before. You're usually coming out of wrestling school, you're nervous, you barely can, tie your boots, you don't know what to expect, you're getting in front of a live crowd for the first time that's screaming and yelling, and you're just worried about remembering the basics. And he went out there with Kevy Chevy, and much like I tested him in the training center to see what he had, Kevy Chevy did the exact same thing and pushed him to the limit and had a show-stealing performance in a match that nobody would have expected out of a wrestler, in his first match in the company and in the business. So he's got another match coming up on Friday with the mastermind Kevin Cannon. I don't think he's going to be tested the same way as he was with Kevy Chevy, who wanted to test his ability, where Kevin Cannon is probably going to test his ability to have eyes in the back of his head with the Cannon Corporation everywhere. But it'll be, once again, another good learning lesson, because unfortunately there are snakes in the business. Not good snakes like the Garber snakes, but actual snakes in the business like Kevin Cannon, who will always have a trick up his sleeve, and in his case, sometimes 4 tricks up his sleeve in the Cannon Corporation, who I'm sure won't be too far from ringside, even though you think a 21-year veteran like Kevin Cannon shouldn't have to have backup to wrestle a guy in his second match, but we all know full well he most definitely will if he has the opportunity.
Now, another guy coming onto the scene here on Friday at Rookies, which is actually in a few hours, is none other than Mercury. This guy is very, very underestimated, and I'm sure you found out about that yourself, and that's why he's on the show. What do we expect out of him?
Well, he's coming strictly on reputation. I've never seen this performer compete before, and actually it was a relief to people, because when we announced Mercury was going to be on the show, people thought it was Zach Mercury, and they demanded refunds.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we had to assure people, no, we assure you Zach Mercury is not on the show. There will be good wrestling. You will not have to sit through that ever again on a CWE show. We still apologize for doing that to you a decade ago. But Mercury, the one that's going to be in action on Friday night, he comes to us from the west coast of Canada. He's from Vancouver. He's a 17, 18-year veteran, junior heavyweight star, trained by Pacific Northwest wrestling legends and the 2 top promoters out in that region, Michelle Starr of All-Star Wrestling and Scotty Mack of ECCW. So he's definitely got the pedigree and the respect of the statesman of that province. So he's coming here to Winnipeg, and he's going to compete against a wrestler coming to us from another promotion as well, the Preacher Gatlin Church, who's representing Northern Empire Wrestling from the Pod, Manitoba. And we're going to see what these 2 guys have, to see if they have, further abilities to compete with the elite on future CWE dates.
Absolutely. I feel that's why they call it Canadian Wrestling Elite, because all the elite from all across North America is being featured on the program. Now, we have none other than Fans Bring the Weapons here. This match is not for, I guess it's not a family match, it's safe to say. The Degenerates, a very unstoppable group as of late, against the Army of Dick. Now, this match is going to be brutal. I'm going to take the Degenerates on this one, because I feel like they have something going for them, and I know that they have a bright future in the business, and they showed that their first 2 matches in the company with other dominance. So I see the Degenerates. What's your choice?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think they have showers going for them. I don't know if you've ever been in the vicinity of them, but they smell pretty fucking terrible. And I don't know if they have much going on in their personal lives, but they are tough competitors when it comes to getting in the ring and fighting and being a professional fighter and a professional wrestler. You said Fans Bring the Weapons, and I don't want to overpass that. That's a big, big deal. That match is one of the most dangerous and scariest matches in all of professional wrestling. So much, in fact, it has not been done in Canadian Wrestling's Elite in over 8 years, because the last time it was done, it took everybody out and put them on the shelf for a very long time. Fans Bring the Weapons. That's right in the title. The people that are coming to the event have the ability to bring the weapons, the instruments of pain that will be used in the match by those competitors to use on each other. So bearing anything illegal, anything's on limits. So it could be something sharp. It could be something blunt. It could be anything, really. It could be something heavy. You can take an eye out with it. Whatever you have in mind that you think could disfigure one of those men and you want to put it in their hands to do so, you have the ability to do it. And you once again said it's not a family-friendly match. You will never see this on a all-ages show for Canadian Wrestling's Elite. This is a match you're only going to see at an 18-plus venue, adults only, and even then, we still have an advisory that is not for the weak of heart. If you are afraid of possible blood, if you're afraid of brutal violence and cringe-worthy pain that's going to make you shiver to see somebody do that to another human body. There's a reason this match is going on last, so you have the option to enjoy the entire show and go home and take comfort in your own bed, because this one is going to be dangerous, it's going to be violent, and it's going to be something that's probably going to scar you for a very long time.
No, absolutely. But, when you look at tag matches and you look at, something maybe extremely not violent but not extremely violent, we have Collins and Stardom, who just captured the CW tag titles against former champions and angry former champions O'Doyle and AJ Sanchez. Now, I say with the game plan that O'Doyle and Sanchez have and the experience that Sanchez has provided, I think they're in the win column. However, Stardom and Collins are very, very big veterans of the Winnipeg game as well. So this one's a hard one, but if I had to choose, O'Doyle being the future and being actually one of the last guests on this show because of his abilities, I'm going to say O'Doyle and Sanchez in this one against Collins and Stardom. They're going to be the new champions, O'Doyle and Sanchez. What do you think, though?
Well, before I give my thoughts on that, not to backtrack too far here, but, I feel like a complete moron. This show is so stacked. It's so big. There's so many matches we talked about already. We haven't even gotten to some of the bigger attraction matches. We've forgotten to mention the entire concept of this entire event. It is the annual Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal. So the only match on the card we know the stipulation of is fans bring the weapons. And even then, you, the fans, decide what goes on in that match by the weapons you bring. But you, the fans, will also help decide the stipulation for every other match on the card. Every single other match on the card will have a stipulation that those competitors will compete under, and that will be decided by those match stipulations being put on a big spinny wheel, and fans will randomly be selected before each match to come up and spin that wheel, make the deal, and whatever it lands on, that match must contest under those stipulations. So in the past, there's been barroom brawls, there's been Iron Man matches, best 2 out of 3 falls, submission match, lumberjack match, a match that I wrestled in the first year of Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, a bra and panties match. Anything and everything is on that wheel, which completely throws out any game planning for any of the competitors on this card. They could be coming in thinking they're going to wrestle one way. They're going to come in and have a good, hard-fought wrestling match to find out it's no disqualification, and the next thing they know, they got a chair flying at them that they got to be ready for. This is a wild, unpredictable night of action. Every match is contested under Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, including the tag team match you just mentioned. But there's also another stipulation that's added to that match. This is a whole show of gimmicks. This tag team match, AJ Sanchez and Kevin O'Doyle, 2-time CWE tag team champions, this is their last shot at the CWE tag team titles. They've been trying to regain them for 18 months. So in order to get a shot at the CWE tag team titles one more time, one that they have not earned through the ranking system of Canadian Wrestling's Elite, they have made an ultimatum to the champions. And if AJ Sanchez and Kevin O'Doyle do not defeat Rob Stardom and Bobby Collins on Friday night in Winnipeg, who are also not only the current but 2-time CWE tag team champions, they're nearing a year-long reign themselves. If AJ Sanchez and Kevin O'Doyle lose on Friday night, they can never team again.
Wow.
AJ Sanchez, Kevin O'Doyle are no more. They had to put that on the contract to get the match. So we're either going to see new champions in AJ Sanchez and Kevin O'Doyle, or we're never going to see them team up again, and we're going to go on to an historic, even more historic reign from Rob Stardom and Bobby Collins, who are going on nearly a year now as champions with no signs of slowing down.
And it just seems like yesterday when they won the belts. Doyle and Sanchez have a very good reign, and like I said, I feel like they're hungrier than ever, and this is going to be it for them. So we're going to find out this Friday night. But another question is, what's been going on with Adam Knight pairing with Kevin Cannon, going against, though, none other than Johnny Malibu? I say that there's a big numbers game. Malibu has to be very, very careful. That goes for yourself when we go into your match. But when it comes to Malibu, I'm going to say Malibu's going to pull off an upset, but he has to be very careful with what's around him. What do you think?
I don't like the odds for Johnny Malibu. And I
you
say
never
that
know.
I say that for someone who respects Johnny Malibu and has, was one of the people campaigning for him to return to pro wrestling and make his return after 18 years to come back and give the new age wrestling fan a taste of Johnny Malibu that they may have missed, because he wrapped up his career so early in the 2000s. But this war he's been going at the Canning Corporation with, he's been doing a great job, to his credit, in one-on-one situations and tag team situations. More times or not, Johnny Malibu has his hand raised. And for those that missed the Labor Day Weekend Wrestling Classic, he had his wits' end, because no matter how much he wins, no matter how much he defeats individual members of the Canning Corporation, there's still 2, 3, 4 other guys in the wings waiting to beat the shit out of him and assault him and injure him. And now the newest member, Sean Martins, has tried to break his neck with a pile driver on the HIW Grand Championship. So he's had a really rough ride, and he laid it on the line. He said he doesn't care what it takes. He wants Kevin Cannon. He wants Sean Martins at the Extreme Consequences Super Show on November 6th. They gave him the match. Under the circumstance, they get to pick his tag team partner, who we still don't know who it's going to be yet. But before we even get there, he's got Adam Knight. Adam Knight has not been seen in CWE since last November. He has been completely non-existent in 2020. He had vanished. He was revealed as the newest hired gun of the Cannon Corporation to help Bobby Schink win the Hardcore Championship last November, and then he vanished. So we thought it was a one-and-done job. We thought maybe Adam Knight was taking a big payoff and riding out into the sunset. But what we've learned is Kevin Cannon has been paying him to sit on the shelf and waiting on reserve for when he needs the big guns. And he needs those big guns this Friday night against Johnny Malibu, because this is the last stop for Johnny Malibu before that tag match against Kevin Cannon and Sean Martins. And you better believe they don't want Johnny Malibu going into that match 100%. And Adam Knight has been wrestling with CWE for 6 years now. I don't believe he's been pinned 6 times in 6 years, maybe 3. It hasn't happened much. He was undefeated for the first 2.5 years he was here. He's a former CWE champion. He's one of the most destructive forces in the history of this company. And he's just been sitting and waiting and training for nearly a year. And he's getting in the ring for the first time on Friday night with a target. He's been told, this is your job, take him out. So you better believe Adam Knight is going to be chomping at the bit to destroy Johnny Malibu on Friday night. And being someone who was on the initial rampage of Adam Knight when he first debuted in CWE, a man who probably took years off my career with the lariats and power bombs that the 4C delivers, I have a feeling if Johnny Malibu's not careful, this comeback he's had, this Cinderella story, could come to an end Friday night.
Fair enough. I'm going to have to say that's my underdog prediction there for the Friday night event. But you never know. But yeah, he has to watch what's around him.
He's the pick in my heart. I would like nothing more for Johnny Malibu to defeat Adam Knight on Friday. I would like nothing more for Johnny Malibu to continue this Cinderella story he's been having. It's been very remarkable and inspiring. But, as a professional of this business, 18 years myself, I look at the realities of it, and I look at it, when I got in the ring with Adam Knight, I was at the top of my game, a CWE champion, traveling the world, going to Japan, wrestling with WWE, Ring of Honor, and I couldn't even get through 3 minutes without Adam Knight taking my head off and putting me to the mat. He's a competitor you cannot prepare for. He's a completely different beast, and Johnny Malibu is going to find that out Friday night.
Now, when it comes to these two, we talk about Winnipeg wrestling and its tradition. None other than two to represent that. Cory Diamond against EZ Ryder. I'm going to say EZ Ryder on this one. I don't know, man. I just love the guy, and he still has big things coming for him, I feel, in the CWE if he keeps winning matches. What are your thoughts? I say EZ Ryder. What's your pick?
Yeah, that's my pick as well, because you want to, go from one inspiration story to a next. EZ Ryder is a name that if you're a Winnipeg wrestling fan, a Canadian wrestling fan, you have either seen EZ Ryder wrestle live over the last 30 years, or you've at least heard the name, you've read it in the magazines, you've seen it in the results. I remember being, a kid in the early 90s and seeing EZ Ryder's picture in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. He is a bona fide Canadian wrestling legend, a former NWA Canadian champion. And it's kind of ironic how things work out. When CWE started, it was a group of young talent that were hungry to do something different and spark change. And we did that, and we still continue to do it. But along the way, we have sparked a desire and a fire and a passion in some of the veterans in the territory that some people have written off. And they said, he's been doing this a long time. He's a little bit slower. He's maybe a little too old now. Maybe it's time he puts up the boots. And then you get a guy like EZ Ryder who, people will comment on that behind his back. And then he gets in the ring, and you go, wow, 30 years, 50-something years old, and you would never guess it because he gets in the CWE locker room. He gets in a CWE ring, and he knows the level he has to perform at, and you would never guess that anyone ever doubted his abilities because he gets in there and he shows why he was one of the top-ranked wrestlers in all of Canada for nearly 3 decades. And he's coming to CWE after, what was thought to be a career-ending surgery. A lot of people don't know this, but he had a very serious back injury. He's got multiple plates and screws in his spine. His doctors don't want him wrestling. He shouldn't be wrestling. He's probably one bad body slam away from never wrestling again, but he has that fire and passion that all of us do who live professional wrestling, and that has not died in EZ Ryder. And it's been so inspiring to see a guy who could have hung up his boots and said, you know what, I had a great career. I traveled the world. I was a main event attraction in my area for as many years as I wrestled here. But no, he's starting at the bottom, and he's working his way up, and he's proving himself all over again, and he's looking for that one last great run. And he's getting in there with no slouch. He's getting in there with the highly capable Cory Diamond, another veteran of 20 years of the Winnipeg Wrestling Wars who came to CWE, who was another guy who was written off, who's just looking for an opportunity. He doesn't want to give up just yet. He says, I still got gas in the tank, and I want to show you. So you got two guys with very similar mindsets going in there on Friday night. So not only is it a cool little tribute to the history of Winnipeg wrestling and some of the top stars over the last couple decades, you're getting two guys that still have a point to prove and still have another decade in front of them if they want it.
Now we have Jordan Garber Now interviewee versus interviewee. This one is going to be, once again, you got to be careful there, Big Cliff Corleone. I know you're a big guy, but you got to watch out because this match is for the HIW Grand Championship. But Sean Martins, ever since he's joined the Cannon Corporation, he has been dominant. And he's going head-to-head, though, against a very tough opponent, none other than Big Cliff Corleone. I'm going to say here that Martins is going to retain his title just due to that numbers game. Cliff has to be very careful. What do you say for this one?
That's a tough call to make because you make a very good point. There is a numbers game, but that's something that Cliff Corleone is very familiar with when it comes to the Cannon Corporation, as he just finished last year having an extensive battle with Bobby Shink over the Hardcore Championship, which he not only lost because of the numbers game, but also lost the moniker of Big Cliff Corleone, one he had for 2 decades. He lost that to Big Bobby Shink, who's now the biggest man in all of CWE. So Cliff Corleone has battled the Cannon Corporation in different variations and forms over the last year. He knows what he's getting into. He hasn't forgotten what was done to him. He had his title taken from him. He had his identity taken from him. So he's had a lot of time to think. And, Sean Martins wasn't in the Cannon Corporation at the time that Cliff Corleone was doing battle with him, but he still stands for what they represented then as they do now. And for that reason alone, he's going to have a target on his back. The second that bell rings, Cliff Corleone is going to be looking to eat his lunch. But you mentioned, Sean Martins has been more dominant than ever, and he's had an incredible 2020, maybe one of the best in CWE. He came to CWE, I believe, the beginning of 2019, maybe the end of 2018, and he was, kind of lost in the shuffle, trying to find his place, trying to mount some momentum. And he was showing signs of it, but he just couldn't. He needed something to latch onto. He needed something to sink his teeth into, and he did that when he captured the HIW Grand Championship. And since earning that championship and becoming the most regularly defended title in the company in this year, with most of our champions being stateside right now, it's lit a spark for Sean Martins to prove that he is the best champion in Canadian wrestling's elite, and he has strung together a 2020 and a list of victories that is beyond impressive. So if he defeats Cliff Corleone, I would be surprised, but I will not be shocked. It will not be an upset because Sean Martins has proven he can beat some of the very best in the business this year.
That should be a very good matchup again for Friday. And another good one lined up here is you're looking to get your revenge here, man. Like, you've been in a tight spot here for quite a while, and the only thing you want to do is get your hands on Roy Cheeks. Now, I'm going to predict that you're going to win this matchup, and I'm sure I know what your prediction is, man.
Yeah, well, the normal Hotshot Danny. Yes, if it's a wrestling match, Hotshot Danny Duggan is going to win. I guess it's going to boil down to just me battling my own emotion and my own temper that I've been dealing with in 2020, and on how that victory is going to end up. I've had to do a lot of reflection over the last year. I lost the CWE championship last year when one of my best friends turned his back on me. A few days later, I was in a fatal car accident where my life was almost ended. And I have not been the same competitor I was since that day. And I know that. And I know that competitor's still in there somewhere. I've just been having a very hard time finding him and stringing together that same drive and that same passion and the same motives I had before to be the very best. And at times, I don't know if it was the concussion causing the accident or just, maybe I don't have what I used to. Just all those thoughts in my head bottling up at once has led to me showing some pretty embarrassing behavior that I'm not proud of, that I've never displayed before in CWE, and I hope not to too much in the future, if ever again. But if I can keep my emotions in check and wrestle Roy Cheeks, regardless of the stipulation that's put in front of him, 100% Hotshot Danny Duggan defeats Roy Cheeks. There's no question of that. You'd have to be a complete moron to think otherwise. But it's going to be a matter of, I know the Canon Corporation is going to try to get involved, and that's been kind of the trigger. The last year is, for 11 years, I've done it by the book and I've followed the rules, but it's those that don't, that continue to get ahead and get the championships and get the big matches. And the second Kevin Cannon sticks his nose into that match, or any other member of the Cannon Corporation, I know that's going to be the true test for me to keep that temper, under the hood, so to speak, because if it blows up, it's not going to be just an ass-kicking of Roy Cheeks. It's probably going to be an ass-kicking of many people and whoever I can get my hands on. So I'm giving you my word right now. Jordan Garber is a friend of mine that I plan to be on my best behavior. I vowed to the fans I'm going to try to get my shit under control here, and that's exactly what you're going to see out of me on Friday night. And I've got a great opportunity, as there's no reason for anything else when I wrestle, someone as inexperienced as Roy Cheeks.
Sammy Peppers and Scott Ripley. Scott Ripley's been absolutely amazing coming off the podcast as well himself, and actually one of the most listened to of the month. He has been, not just that, he's been doing amazing in the ring, especially through the CWE ranks, and getting up some victories too as of late. But Sammy Peppers is very underestimated as well. So I'm going to say Ripley on this one. What do you say?
I say this is a great match to get an indication of what the future of Winnipeg wrestling is going to look like. You've got two guys that are 2 years into their careers. They've shown a lot of progress. They've shown a lot of promise, a lot of potential, and they've been very successful in those 2 years. And now they're going to go in the ring. They're both looking to find their footing and get into, contendership for one of the championships, move up the card, earn more respect in the locker room. So this is a great opportunity. It's one thing to get in the ring with a veteran and outwork him and beat him and, surprise some people to move up the ladder. But sometimes those breakout moments come from getting in the ring with somebody, on the same level as you, somebody who's the same place on the card, who has the same experience, who's around the same age, who's just as hungry, who wants just as big of a break as you do, who wants to make a name for themselves. And that's sometimes when the magic happens. You get two young guys who are just going to go out there and lay it on the line. No pressure or nerves from being in the ring with somebody more experienced or maybe more talented than them. They just have the opportunity to go in there and be the best version of themselves, get out of their own head and make it happen. And I think that's the opportunity that's at play here for Scott Ripley and Sammy Peppers. So if one of them is able to get the win over the other, I think that's going to be a strong indicator of what direction the future of CWE and Winnipeg wrestling is going. And either way, I don't think you can, lose on that battle. And it's interesting as well because Scott Ripley has been associated with the coach Kelly Russell for pretty much the majority of his CWE career. He's been very absent since Marty Gold broke his leg back in the spring. So Scott Ripley's been doing it on his own without a manager. He's been unsuccessful so far without a manager, where he was very successful with the coach in his corner. So it's going to be interesting to see going into this match on Friday if he's learning to do business on his own and find success without somebody dictating him to how to do things, or if he's going to have to fall back on the coach returning and healing up and directing him to get to that same success he had prior to that injury. So this match will be very, very telling on many levels on what's to come for both of these men's careers to close out 2020.
No doubt about that. That's for sure. Now, last but certainly not least, Mentolo was supposed to go head-to-head with Kevy Chevy, but with Kevy Chevy containing the coronavirus, it is the mystery opponent to be named. Now, I'm still going to say Mentolo, because he's gone above and beyond, and he's one of the best in the history of CWE, bottom line. So I'm going to say Mentolo, but the question is, who's his opponent going to be? Like, I have no idea.
You just said it, man. He's the best, and a big part of my problems in the last year is
and
not
had
coming
some issues
to
as of late with him too.
Well, the breakout for myself in my singles career in this territory was defeating Mentolo after him going nearly undefeated for 3 years in CWE when this company began. It was me being the guy to finally knock the Icon off the mountain and pin him for the first time, and beat him for this, and then a second time for the CWE championship later on. I was the guy that was the kryptonite that was able to defeat Mentolo, and we've had some encounters over the last year, and I have lost every single one of them. And that's been a very hard pill to swallow. That makes it look like you're backtracking in your career, that once upon a time you beat this guy and it skyrocketed you to the biggest heights of your career, and now he continuously beats you over and over, and you got to start asking yourself, do I not have what it takes anymore? Did he get that much better, or did I get worse? And that's been a big part of the mental block in my head, is not being able to come to that decision or face that reality that maybe he is just better, or maybe I have lost a step. But when you predict that Mentolo is going to beat anybody, that's a fair assessment, because he usually does. It's not common you see Mentolo lose a professional wrestling match. He's been with this company since day one, as we're going on nearly 12 years now. And it is not a common occurrence for Mentolo to lose in any shape, form, or fashion. So for whoever is going to put their name on that line, to wrestle him on Friday night, they better know what they're doing. It's either going to be somebody that's got a game plan, that thinks they're going to make a name for themselves at the expense of Mentolo, or there's going to be someone going in there with just a hope and a test of their abilities to see what they got. Because that's the best way to find out, how much you really have in the tank, is to get in there with the very best and go to war with them. So whoever gets the ring with Mentolo, they'll have a true testament, and hopefully Chevy clears up his COVID-19 and can return to action soon. I know he's battling both COVID and chlamydia 19, but he's got meds for both. He should be back sooner than later, and we wish him a very speedy recovery.
Now, a big factor here, though, is every match is picked at random here, with the wheel being spinned. Well, at least 90% of them. So, do you think that's going to play a factor on each of these matches?
It plays a factor in every match. I think spin the wheel, make the deal has been around, give or take 5 years now. I've competed on every single one of those events. You think, that you look at the wheel, and there's so much variety, and there's so many different options on where that match can take you, that you just can't prepare for it. You can't sit in the back in the locker room and mentally prepare, come up with a game plan. If he goes like this, I'm going to do this. If he shoots for this move, I'm going to shoot for that move, because it may be completely out of the question. There may be lumberjacks on the floor. There may be, it may be a barroom brawl, and there's going to be very little wrestling if that spills out into the bar and fists are being thrown, or a best 2 out of 3 falls. And you could be planning to try to pin somebody once, and now you got to pin him twice. And if you get a wrestler the caliber of Mentolo, good luck pinning him once, never mind twice. So it definitely changes things, and that's the really cool, spontaneous part of the event. Is you have to be prepared for anything, because you don't find out until you're in the ring.
Now, another good thing about this venue is finally we covered everything, and it's going to be a great show. That was a lot to discuss, but we certainly went through it, and every match is going to be an exciting one. But tell the fans here, this venue, Rookie Sports Bar, has been a great part of the CWE for quite a long time. So when you come to the show, there's drinks available, there's food, and actually the cheapest drinks you can get in the city. So that's another reason to come out to the show. So tell the fans listening from Winnipeg and even from other parts of the world, that way when coronavirus is over, they can go to future events where people can check this out, and where they can get food at the show and merchandise and things along those lines.
Well, we always say you get to go visit Al Snow's identical twin at the main bar at Rookie Sports Bar. He's the one serving up those cheap drinks. He takes care of you all night long. They have Will's Tasty Foods, a restaurant right inside the facility, so you can order all kinds of food, come down and have dinner at the event, snack throughout it. And then, of course, to check out CWE, we're on, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at CWE Canada. We just opened up a pro wrestling tee store at prowrestlingtees.com/CWE Canada, which has the official Hotshot Danny Duggan t-shirt, the Canadian Crusher AJ Sanchez t-shirt exclusive that just came out a couple days ago, the Canadian Strong Style Rob Stardom shirt, and the latest edition CWE shirt, all available on sale now. And, of course, you can check out any CWE event on our schedule and where you can get tickets at cwetickets.com.
Right on. Well, we look forward to doing this preview with you each and every time, Hotshot, and we look forward to talking to you during the next one. You have yourself a good night, man.
Awesome. We'll see you Friday night.
Do you remember Real Aid Media? Well, the creator of that has another solution for you. Check it out. This is an emergency kit and a home safety evaluation for free. This kit has 180 pieces, such as a blanket, light stick, flashlight, cold pack, burn cream, and much, much more. This company is giving them away free to qualified homeowners, as well as a complimentary home safety evaluation for advertising purposes. The link available here is surveymonkey.com/r/204B. That's surveymonkey.com/r/204B. Check it out now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We just finished the CWE preview with Danny Duggan, but I have an exclusive interview here. This guy is having one of the toughest battles in his career, but these two go head-to-head as Manitoba wrestling legends, and I want to hear one side of the story here. I want to hear from none other than Cory Diamond. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Now, Friday night, you've been waiting. You've been like a caged animal. You want to have this match. You want to get this done once and for all. Two Manitoba wrestling legends. You guys have main evented, Winnipeg. You guys have done it all, and you guys are going head-to-head, you and EZ Ryder. Now, before we get to the components of this match, let's talk about your history with him. Did you used to be a fan of the guy? Did you used to get along with him before now, or was it all bad blood?
Actually, in the early 90s, I used to go to the local shows watching EZ Ryder. So he was a big inspiration to get into the business. So when I did get to break into the business in 99, he was definitely one of the names that were feared in the local scene, as well as known internationally.
So, having all that hype right now and looking up to him and everything and doing all that, do you have any pressure with that in the back of your mind going into this matchup?
No, not at all, because I am not the shy kid growing up watching this. Now, I feel that I have surpassed EZ Ryder, and 20 years ago, that name actually meant something. Now, come Friday at Rookie's Sports Bar, I believe that I'm going to make EZ Ryder my bitch.
Wow, well, those are some very strong now. How exactly, do you have any key components going into this matchup to make that happen? Because that's certainly easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. However, youth definitely outweighs age.
That is true, and I've seen a lot of sides of you. I've seen you wrestle since I started being a fan of the sport, man. We've been friends in this business since 2008. Since the beginning of CWE, once it began at the very first few events, and I've seen some really, really dark sides of Cory Diamond. The question is are you going to bring Cory Diamond to the table, or are you going to bring someone else to the table? Are you going to bring that dark side that I seen in the past that, to be honest, I sort of fear?
Well, to be honest, it would have to be the diamond in the rough coming to bringing to the table on Friday, because I would have to bring everything in my arsenal to get past EZ Ryder and become victorious in this match. Whatever the draw of the wheel brings to the table.
All right, now let's talk about your CWE career altogether. Let's kind of look back a little bit. What are some great matches that you had in your career that kind of pinpointed you to this point and wanting to beat EZ Ryder? You know, it's a really big matchup for you. You know, a lot of people are going to have their eyes on this match, but like looking back in your career at CWE altogether, what match kind of stands out as like your top?
Well, in CWE, I feel that I've grown as a competitor a lot, as well as bringing in a knowledge that I didn't have, say, 5 to 10 years ago. And I'll have to rely on that, my drive to overcome any stipulation that is handed in order to be successful on Friday. So
Now,
the match that stands out would have to be with Rob Stardom, Mike Mission in those bloodthirsty hardcore matches, because those get pretty insane, and I've had a lot of those over my years.
no, absolutely. Like I said, I see some dark sides of you, and I've seen some hardcore matches. That's for sure. But one other question, you know, all these people here in Winnipeg, it's a capacity of 100, and it's going to be a lineup to get in. The question is why should people pay a ticket to see you? And why should they pay a ticket to see you go head-to-head with EZ Ryder, perhaps one of the best matches of the night?
Well, to sum it up, the reason that you want to buy your ticket to Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal this Friday at Rookie's Sports Bar is to see EZ Ryder's last match against the Diamond in the Rough, Cory Diamond, because he'll want to retire after I'm done with him.
Wow, well, those are some very strong words from none other than Cory Diamond. Is there anything else you have to say here on the program before this show begins?
Just make sure that you have your tickets for this Friday, October 2nd, Rookie Sports Bar, Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal.
Alrighty, guys, none other than Cory Diamond here on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. That's coming right up your way, just under 2 hours. CWE, Spin the Wheel, Make a Deal. Talk about a preview. Wow, that's absolutely incredible. We hear from the Hotshot, Danny Duggan, who's traveled those roads with me across Canada and the United States. And we have Cory Diamond, who also just delivers a great interview as well. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm on my way to the show right now. I'm going to get my ticket. I'm going to get myself a drink. I'm going to get myself a slice of pizza. I'm going to kick back, relax, and watch some of the best talent in Canadian wrestling go head to head. That was absolutely awesome. You know, actually, Jordan Garber now was at the pod. I was at Rookie Sports Bar once and was on the show. How did that happen, you might ask? Well, one show, I was doing a special snake pit, which you guys heard about earlier, me and Danny talking about. And with the snake pit, I did a live segment, and guess what? It was dying. I did not do my part well. But what happened, and what added insult to injury, as me and Shane Madison were in the ring, was Kevin Cannon and Jacob Creed, a Saskatchewan wrestler, decided to come out to the ring, ruin the snake pit, and Jacob Creed proceeds to give me a body slam. And man, when I walked to the back, I felt like I was in ruins. But then, the main event to that match take place. I think it was like the second last match, not the main event. And it was a kiss my ass match. It was against Shadow Extreme and Kevin Cannon, who was the instigator in all of this. He was on the show. And then what happened? I come out of nowhere as Kevin Cannon grabs a legal weapon, the brass knuckles, and I literally give Kevin Cannon the stone cold stunner, allowing Shadow Extreme to get the victory, and of course, to get Kevin Cannon to kiss his ass. That was probably one of my greatest moments in CWE history. And I plan to go to the show and watch more not mystery, maybe mystery, you never know, more history be made. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So yeah, thanks for tuning into that CWE preview, but we are not done just yet. We have our main event interview still to come. We are back with the Jordan Garber Now podcast demographic update. Canada is at number 1 at 52%. The United States sitting at number 2 at 41%. And Ireland, of all places, sitting at number 3 for 2%. All the other mentions here, I should make note on the show here, all of these are sitting at 1% and under. And those following places that I have listed are the United Kingdom, England, and Scotland are the places in the United Kingdom. I guess I don't know why Ireland's separate, but it does appear as that. France, Australia, Singapore, India, Brazil, Germany, Mexico, the British Virgin Islands, Belgium, Bulgaria, Italy, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, the United Arab Emirates, or I think that's what it's called. Sorry about that, I have to clear my throat. Nigeria, Spain, Algeria, Nepal, and Russia, all sitting at 1% or under. Now, let's go into Canada here in the 52% segment. Manitoba sitting at 79. Winnipeg being the number 1 listening location in Manitoba and in the entire podcast. Demographic group sitting at 98%. Oxford House, Thompson, Sandy Lake, Miami, Lac du Bonnet, Ardbeg, and the Pas all sitting at 1% or under. Alberta is sitting at 11%, with its top places being Leduc at 52%, Edmonton at 30%, Calgary at 12%, and all at 1%, Carstairs, Airdrie, Red Deer, and Medicine Hat. Let's go down now to Ontario, sitting at the 4% only segment in the geographic location. Manitoba is doing a pretty good job, sitting at 79, but Ontario only being at 4. And their top places are Ontario, Barrie, Kitchener, Brampton, Mississauga, Guelph, Ontario, London, Ontario, Peterborough, and I believe that is it for Toronto, for Ontario there, all sitting at 3%, those last places I mentioned. Saskatchewan is sitting at 2%, with Regina being its top listening location in the province at 89%, and Langham, Saskatchewan sitting at 5%, and Weyburn, Saskatchewan sitting at 5%. British Columbia only at 1%, its top listening location being Vancouver, second being Westminster, as well as Richmond and Delta at 20%. Other mentions all sitting at 1% or under is none other than Quebec and New Brunswick. So Manitoba dominating the Canada category. Let's go to the United States. I don't really have the exact listening cities, not enough data for United States listening cities. I used to have that, but I don't anymore. But its top state in the United States, our top U.S. location in terms of state is New Jersey at 27%, Washington at 17%, Virginia, which used to be number 1, sitting at 13%, California at 7%, as well as Oregon, Texas at 4%, and Florida, Illinois, and Arizona, and Michigan, New York, all sitting at 2%. And 1% we have Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Kentucky, Nevada, Georgia, and that is it for 1%. And 1% or under is Maryland, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, Minnesota, North Carolina, District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., South Carolina, New Hampshire, Ohio, Delaware, Alabama, West Virginia, North Dakota, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kansas, Indiana, and Alaska. Let's go all the way down now to Ireland. The top listening location at 100% is Leinster, where Dublin is located, I believe. And I did believe I mentioned all of them here. Let's listen now here to the listening platforms here. Other is sitting at 43%, meaning other sources other than these following. Apple Podcasts at 29%, sitting in second place. Anchor 15%, where I'm getting this data from, and Spotify sitting at 13%, which was an improvement from last time. Listening platforms, 52% at other. The second most listening platform is the iPhone at 27%, 13% on the web, 5% on the Mac, and 3% on an Android. In terms of gender, our top listening gender is male at 85%. Females are sitting at 10%, which is a little bit of a drop. Non-specified is sitting at 4%. In terms of age groups, we have 0 to 17 sitting at 1%, 18 to 22 sitting at 17%. A big increase here a little bit. 23 to 27 years old is 46%. 28 to 34 is 11%. 35 to 44 is 9%. 45 to 59 years old is 16%. And 60 plus is only sitting at 1%. And those sources were directed from Spotify. This was another Jordan Garber Now demographic update. We'll have another one next week. Are you a wrestling fan? And do you like collecting wrestling merchandise? Well, Hotshot's Retro Rewind and Wrestling Collectibles is the place for you. They have t-shirts, action figures, DVDs, and autographs available. Check it out. Hotshot's Retro Rewind and Wrestling Collectibles on their public Facebook group. Coming up next on the Jordan Garber Now podcast, we have none other than an interview with the man himself, Q. All right, another edition of the Jordan Garber Now podcast. I am back with none other. This guy is very mysterious, and he calls himself a simple name, and that is Q. Welcome to the program, man. How's it going?
Thanks for inviting me onto your platform.
Not a problem. And you guys can listen to the Jordan Garber Now podcast and this interview on many platforms across the world on our streaming services, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. But your career started out in 2008, and you actually had some really good training. And this guy was the real deal, the original tugboat before it got ripped off in the WWF. Tugboat Taylor, and to have a trainer like that, man, that must have been incredible. So what were just some highlights of that experience?
It was a very humbling experience, to be honest, because like these days they're very like well lit, well air conditioned facilities. At this time, this was like a very hot abandoned warehouse in Houston, Texas. So like it was very hot. It smelled like bum piss. Bones lived in it. But, I mean, I wasn't very high maintenance either. So, like, to me, like, it was nothing but looking back on it, like, to know, like, I came from, like, just an abandoned warehouse to learn my craft. Like, that will always stick out to me because that was the most humbling experience. Like, it wasn't very lavish or anything. It was just a gritty, abandoned warehouse. But, yeah, Tugboat, he had analogies for like everything. So like he would tell you always keep your left foot forward, and like he would say like you driving the car, left foot forward. If you're if you're on a date, left foot forward. If you do anything with a female, left foot forward. So like he had his little nuances that he would like throw in that made you like remember like the crazy stuff that he said.
That's crazy, and it must be a great experience, getting that extensive training, and like, you have to learn from the best. I don't believe in people that put 3 months in and get in the ring. I think that's bullshit. I think it's important to get a full year's into training, and I think at the very least, 8-9 months of complete guidance, and I feel like it's important finding a good trainer. Because there's not every trainer is a Tugboat Taylor. There's trainers that are guys that used to drop out from schools and they think they can train. So it's really important for aspiring wrestlers to pick the right trainer and go on the right path. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, like for the most part, because I'll be honest, man, there are like some guys who like just have it, and like within like a month or so. Like they're ready. Like
that's true too. Yeah.
When I trained within because I was slated to have my first match, and then I broke my wrist, and that pushed it back. Which I'm pretty sure it probably was like a blessing in disguise, but like finding like a credible trainer and a good trainer, because there are a lot, like you said, a lot of guys out there who just kind of had heat with their original trainer and decided to like, hey, I'm just gonna go start a school, and then you're training guys the wrong way, and they're hurting people, and it's ruining like innocent like people's careers because they don't know like this trainer doesn't have any credibility. So now they get associated with this trainer and with hurting people, and their career's over before it even started, and that's just not fair to the trainee. So yeah, like it's very crucial to do like your research and looking into like credible schools and trainers.
Now, there's one city in Texas that is very familiar to you in the beginning stages of your career, and that's Cypress, Texas, where you faced the likes of Golden Boy Zamora, Silky Baines, the Golden Prince, Sean Mills. What was that like, you know, performing at the I think it's the VFW Hall as well as
VFW Hall.
And also the Post 8905. So, like, what's it like performing at those two venues, you know, in your career? How memorable is that town to you, or city?
I mean, it's going to always hold like a special place to me because that's where I broke in. That's where I had my first match for like a good part of maybe like the first 2 years of my career. Golden Boy Zamora, which was Golden Prince, man, like that dude, I was like my best friend, almost like my measuring stick at the time. Because he started when he was 14, so he was really like only 16 when we started having like banger matches that was sort of like ahead of the times, so to speak. And then like you go to guys like Silky Baines, which he may not look like a lot like up front, but like character wise, this dude like has it. And like as far as like being a wrestling encyclopedia, like this dude, the knowledge that he has is so like he's so like underrated with the knowledge that he has, but like he's like a good like wrestling mind. So yeah, like
Another
that
thing
Cypress,
kinda...
that was like a golden little I don't know, it in short, and like to keep a long story short, like it just holds a special place to my heart, that whole venue.
No, absolutely. I remember the first place. Like, I'm a former referee, and as everybody knows, I've been on the sidelines because I've always had trouble picking up weight. So, you know, me losing a major amount of pounds throws me on the commentary table for live events. I'm still able to do that, and I still will do that, and I'll still be a podcaster and deliver a podcast every week. But, yeah, you know, I remember in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, because I'm Canadian, that was the first ever one I did, and that was an 8-hour drive. And, oh, man, it was the worst drive. It was Saskatchewan. Like, have you even heard of Saskatchewan? There's, like, nothing there. And I remember, though, I got in the ring for the first time, and the first thing I did is, like, I came in as an emergency. And, wow, I didn't know a single thing. I did terrible. But, you know, that's how you learn. And now I look back 5 years knowing a little more. I kind of laugh at that tape a bit.
I think, like, the best learning experience is just, like, being in a situation where something gets messed up or, like, where you don't know. Because you'll always remember, like, I'll never go through that again.
No, exactly. So Cypress, Texas also held an even bigger place in 2012 because, you know, NWA Houston became, you know, really old school. They're trying to throw on a good product. I think they're associating with Lone Star Championship Wrestling, and there were some opponents you had like Byron Wilcott and King Fale and Rudy Russo that were amazing. Mike Dale, too. Those 4 matches in 2012. What were those guys like, man? They must have been a class act. They must have been good to work with in the ring.
Byron, yeah, he was always he was always like sort of weird to me because he had like a very what's that, unorthodox style. Like he had different ways of getting into moves, and I would be like, "Wait, what are we doing?" And it would be like on my arm, like some weird way, but then we'll end up to like where we needed to be, and it's like, all right. So like he always had like little things like to teach me about like pecking orders in wrestling, like getting like some of little things that mean big and like main event type deals. Wrestling Fale, which he's now Bad Luck Fale at the Bullet Club. That was weird because they just told me I was a New Japan guy, and I was like, okay. And like we just went out and like really just had like a simple like match. But like I learned some things from it because I think at the time he was Lance Hoyt's young boy, so he was traveling with Hoyt, and Hoyt was telling him some things, and I was just like a fly on the wall listening. So that was like a pretty fun match, and like I could go back to it and be like, well, hey, like I've had this match before in my life, and I gotta go back and watch the Rudy Russo match because I think that may have been like the first one back. I don't remember too much of that Rudy Russo match.
How are the crowds like there? You know, you guys probably do some pretty good numbers, you know, with Texas being like a really big wrestling state and everything.
Yeah. There was a point where a lot of the Texas wrestling scene, the indies, wasn't really drawing. Like the only fed that was drawing was like a comedy league. But through that, the NWA Houston, they were drawing around that time, like 300 people in like the VFW hall. And I was like, well, man, like, let me try to get there. And it felt good, man, because I like when I came back, they remembered me. So it's kind of like that kind of touched me, like, oh man, all right. But like, yeah, the crowds were always there. They always remembered me. They were super easy to work and stuff. Always hyped. Like that building has like a very loyal fan base because even before the pandemic, different promotions would run there and it would be the same fans that still that would go to the venue to watch it.
That's awesome stuff. So like you kind of transitioned now from there. You know, you had a great career down there in Texas. And you still did, but you moved on to some new promotions like World Wrestling Alliance 4 and Booker T's promotion, Reality of Wrestling. Now, those are two big jumps, that's for sure. Booker T's promotion still being in Texas, but, you know, going out there to Atlanta, what was that like? What would you compare the Georgia scene like to the Texas scene as well, if you could throw that in there too?
A misconception, because I've heard this like on another interview I did. Like, I never went to Atlanta, so like I don't know like where that one came from.
CageMatch.net, CageMatch.net. I'm calling you guys out. I have been doing research here. I have all my information gathered, a perfect interview, and then boom, you guys do that. So I love this interview. Will continue, but CageMatch.net. You guys can't do that, man. You're hurting me, man. Yeah. You're hurting me. Sorry, my man. I apologize out of respect to yourself.
Oh, it's fine.
I believe the Reality of Wrestling was a great run for yourself, wasn't it? I think you're still there.
Yeah. It was a transitional period. I had I wouldn't say a big falling out, but it was like a falling out to where like I quit the business for a while from NWA Houston. And at the time I was hanging out with a lot of Booker T's students because they were doing the same shows I was doing. And they were trying to get me to come to Booker's. And at that time, I was just done with the business. I was like, nah, man, I don't want to deal with the politics. I'm over everything. And I ended up like just getting, I won't say suckered, but like they ended up catching me at the right time. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I did like one show back, which was with some people that I knew. And right off the bat, like Booker gravitated towards my work and was like, you could be big in this business. What's your aspirations? And I was just like, I mean, behind the right people, like I want to do this for a living. And I made it like clear that like I had like a bad taste in my mouth from I pretty much experienced the business, the politics side and the bad side of the business at a young age, which was in hindsight a blessing because like now like I know how to handle it, but at the time I didn't. And I was just like, I just don't want to deal with stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, it's cool, man. Like, I mean, I get you. Just stick with me and like I'll give you all the tools that you need. And so from there, I just took off. When I want to say took off, like literally, like matches, a feud, and then like things just started rolling. Like time just flew by so fast, and I really just can't explain it. Like time just flew. Like everything, like some people bring up that happened at Reality of Wrestling. I'm like, that seems like it happened 2 years ago. It was like, nah, it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, like
I'm like,
2015, 2014, you started out there too. You didn't start out there, but you came back and you made a career for yourself there, which was also around the time actually with WA. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. No, it was in 2015. Wildcat actually had some association, and they had this tour called. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't trust this site anymore. But This Means War, and that was pretty awesome. You know, everyone's heard of Wildcat Wrestling. You even had a match there with Stevie Richards. So how was that?
Yeah, it was fun, and it was like it was like something off the bucket list because it gave me a chance to go wrestle back in my hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana. So like it was always like a good homecoming, and like to see, I saw like a high school friend, and he was a wrestling fan, and I saw him at the show, and like I worked my mask gimmick, and like after the show, he's like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" And people are taking pictures. He's like, "Wait, were you out there?" I was like, "Yeah, that was me in the mask." And like the way like his face lit up, and he was like, "Bro, that was supposed to be us tag team partners and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah." So like I always like enjoyed doing those Wildcat shows because it was a chance to go home and like have my family watch and see.
No, it must have been. It's good to have your family watch as well. Like performing in front of a crowd is really good, but if your family's there watching too, it just creates that bigger experience as a worker and a professional wrestler. You also had a title run there too. How was that, man? That must have been pretty cool. I think. With how many times did you win the title, and like how was that reign? How was the journey to the top, like in terms of development?
The wrestling?
Yeah, ROW.
Um, it was weird, man. Like I remember getting like the title the first time, and it still didn't hit me that like I was a champ. Like I was just still out there and have the best match. I was trying to compete and go out there and just have the best match. And there was sort of like a point where I dropped the title to Fala. And in my head, I was like, man, like when I drop the title, dude, the next step is like a tryout or somewhere. I just need to be like in WWE after this because I was really confident in my work at the time. And like I dropped the title and I had like did some backstage extra work at WWE. So like at the time, it's like if they need like extras or guys for like random guys for like a scene. At the time, it was like if they needed guys to be rosebuds for Adam Rose, that's
Yep.
what we would do. And so you do that. You sort of have practice matches with like other extra talent, and then at points like you cut a promo, and promos was like something like I never did like in my career, and I thought like it would just come easy like a freestyle or something. And so like I cut my first promo ever in front of William Regal, and oh my God, it was horrible, bro.
Oh no.
I think back on it now, like I'm even embarrassed. It was bad, man. It was real bad to where like he kind of just like looked down. He was like, "You had everything. I don't think I need to tell you what you need to work on." He was like, "Fix that, and we'll take you down for a tryout." And like I worked on it, but I never lost the mask, and he wanted me to lose the mask. So he ended up talking to Booker, and we went through this phase of me getting rid of the mask. But then that created like a problem in its own because after that, it became an issue of me trying to find a look that sort of worked for me. Because like I had a beard at the time that was kind of controversial or whatever. So like it kind of drew me some heat. And so on like that second time that I got the championship, I really didn't feel it because like it was a very quick transition. Like I won a title, then like I dropped it to to Gino, which, I mean, if you look at it now, like Gino just like took that and ran with it. Now he's like all over. Like everybody should know who Gino Medino is. But it definitely, in short, it definitely like gave me sort of like a sense of pride, and I always took the chip of, hey, go out and try to follow this type deal with me.
Now,
Champ should.
what was like some chemistry that you learned a lot from Booker? Like, what was he like a big mentor in your career? Like, what were some major things that you'll never forget that he taught you, if you wish to share them?
He was very big on like what we call the little things. So like with him, he will tell you like it's never about the moves. And like he'll double back and say, okay, it's about the moves, but you have to make them sort of make sense. He's very big on like timing and like without giving away too much, because there's some things like you just have to like hear him say, because a lot of things I wouldn't ask him directly because I didn't know what to ask. It would be unless if I messed up, I'll get an earful and I hear it, or like if somebody else messed up and I'll just sit there and listen to what he's telling them. But he's very big on like people need to see you. So like if you do a show and nobody has any footage or picture of you doing anything, if that makes sense, like you'll catch it. Because you do things, you sort of need to slow it down so people can see. They create that, they see that, they take the photo, it's posted somewhere. Now you have like a little bit of buzz or something from the show you did. So he's big on the storytelling and like the showmanship of everything, if that makes sense.
No, that's really, really interesting. And those are like the one things that is so important, especially in front of a crowd. And, you know, I even remember my referee days, just stepping out and performing in front of an audience is something that's absolutely unbelievable. And it's something that no one can experience unless they step out in front of a crowd and go inside of a ring. And it's incredible, that's for sure. And not wrestling, like that's comedy, that's acting, that's how many other industries. And when people finally reach that goal and work in front of a crowd, it's remarkable. Now, you had something going on with Moose. You know, they had an Impact taping with Reality of Wrestling. Moose was actually on the Jordan Garber Now podcast in the past. So, you know, that's a good match. Jordan Garber Now interviewee versus Jordan Garber Now interviewee. So, how was that match worked? And, like, when it comes down to a simulcast taping, how did that work as well? What was that like, having TV cameras and everything and learning, like, not to work in front of a crowd, but now to work differently in front of a camera, which is a little different?
Well, that's one of the other things that Book always that you learn at Booker's. Like he's training you, he's prepping you for TV. So like the shows that we have, Reality of Wrestling, that's all like a TV show. So it was just like another day. It was like studying for a test, having all the tools, and like I was ready for it. At first, I was bummed because originally I was supposed to work Sami Callihan, and that was like the match I wanted. I was like, okay. And like very last minute, it was like, no, you're gonna work Moose, which, and like Moose, like I was like mentally preparing for Sami like this whole time, but like I knew Moose could do some stuff, and like. Then him like under the TV radar, like I know like he got it, and so like it was very weird. Like at first I thought like he just didn't like anything I was coming up with, because I would give like I would give an idea, and he would just stop and stare, and I was like, and he's like, no, hold up, and then like within like a second, like a few minutes, he'll be like, okay, check this. And like he would relay it back to me in the spot, and it's like, okay, yeah, let's go that way. So it was definitely an experience with Moose, but it was also a realization, because I was like, man, like I think like I went with him, and like it was the first like eye-opening experience to where maybe I could I could do this like on like the Impact level. Because before that, like I never thought of Impact being like a realistic place to go at the time.
Yeah.
And after that show, like D'Lo pulled me aside and talked to me, and he was like, "Man, I'll give you some advice." He's like, "Lose the mask, um, work on your facials and stuff, and like you could really go far in this business." And I was like, "Okay, say no more."
So how
Sort of
was
like
most recently you had a good career here with World Class Revolution so far, having some good matches with the likes of Rigo de Sol and Gino Medina. So what's that been like there in Carrollton?
I like those shows, man, because it was almost like a training show, but at the same time it was like a hey, like let's go here and like work on some stuff. Like it's always fun working Fuego because I just saw him, but like I could think of something and be like, hey man, can you do this? And we go out and like we do it. And Fuego is so innovative. Like if anybody's like not following him or never heard of him, like I mean, he's on AEW Dark a lot. He's like a guy in a mask. Um, but man, he's so innovative and so creative, dude. So man, like he's super underrated, man. And working Gino Medina, like I'm pretty sure everybody has to know like who he is from MLW now. He's one of my
Yep.
training partners as well. Like this dude, man, like when they talk about be around people who bring out sort of like the best in you, he's one of those people that I will always like keep in my circle because it's always a challenge to try to see what he gets to try to like keep up with him. Like he's always ever advancing. Like we have a little inside joke to where like we call him like he's Goku and I'm Vegeta, and he's always like leveling up and like getting to like this level, and I'm always trying to like keep up with him. But yeah, being in the ring with him, you get better like each time you come out of the ring with them. So like those world class Revolution shows were definitely like a plus working those. I think it was almost like every Thursday we were working those.
Awesome. And just some news and notes here from the interview as well before we wrap things up. Just the quick highlights, honorable mentions, new Texas Pro Wrestling experience, as well as wrestling for WrestleCade and the Carolina Wrestling Federation, where Bo Crockett was on last week. He was our main event interview last week. All three of those promotions, what were they like, just to sum things up?
WrestleCade was WrestleCade was fun. I only got to wrestle there once, but man, it was fun because it was like a big convention, pretty much, and like you get to see all these people. And I kind of messed up because I'm super shy. But if I was ever to go again, like I understand now that that's the what they call that's where you're supposed to network. So now like I understand like the like networking, like the severity of it. Like if you're not networking, brother, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's like a bit of advice for anybody who ever wants to become a wrestler. Like you have to network. Like you have to. Like your talents and stuff is good, but like if you don't have a network to where like someone can go to bat for you or know of you, like you won't be anywhere. You'll just be a good talent that kind of never went anywhere. So if I can't push anything enough or stress anything enough, network. So that was the WrestleCade experience for me.
All right, we like to do a top three on the program here. Always a positive top three. Top three wrestlers you have your eyes on now that are going to be the biggest breakout stars in the industry, and go.
Um, Let me guess. I'll say, man, this is weird. Let me guess. Only one. Um, I feel like he's already like he's broken out already, but I'll say Will All Day down here in Houston, Texas.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right, That was a good first one. What are some wrestlers as well, like you just had some influences on? You could fill those two up with those guys as well.
What's his on?
Oh, top wrestlers. We just won't say top breakout wrestlers, but just say two wrestlers that, past or present, that you could push to the top. Who would they be? That's my fault. I'll fix that question. Yeah, two more. That you could push to the top. Anyone that you could push and see as world champion, who would you push?
And Two-Core Scorpio, man.
Oh, he's awesome. He is awesome. There's a funny
story.
Still
to this day. Oh, word? You got to tell me, bro.
Yeah, there's a funny story about Two-Core Scorpio, actually. I wasn't there, but there was a story when he toured with CWE Wrestling here in Winnipeg, and he has this shatter pen. You know those shatter pens that they have?
Yeah.
He literally, he like when they met him, he never let go of the shatter pen, and through the whole 8-hour car drive to the next town, he was like horking this shatter pen. It was absolutely crazy. And like he came out of the car and it was like the car smelled like dabs. Apparently, it was hilarious. It was the best.
Yeah, dude, that dude's a legend, bro.
Absolute legend. I wish I was there. It's crazy. That's for sure. But yeah, where can people follow you on social media, man? You really have a good career. Congrats on crack. It's not a big deal on this whole PWI 500 thing. I think that's speculation. I think you should be, $299. But where can people follow you on social media and just follow your matches and go from there, contact you for bookings, things along those lines?
On social media, I'm on Twitter under DA Mysterious Q. I'm on Instagram under Mysterious Q. I'll pop up. I'm also I have a YouTube channel, and I'm working on trying to get the footage from my matches so I could post on there without any issues. Under QTube. Want to contact me for bookings, they could go through my DMs, or they could email me at DEQ Carter, CARTER @gmail.com. So again, that's DEQ Carter @gmail.com.
Right on, man. Well, it's great having you on the program, and congrats on all your success. And I'll see you at the top, pretty much. I see nothing but a bright title reign at the very least in your future, and very, very more to come. So all the best to you and yourself, and hopefully we can get you on again soon.
Thank you again for having me.
No problem. What a great interview with none other than Q. Man, for someone to win the top title in reality of wrestling is absolutely incredible. And he did just that. He also made it to the PWI 500, and he also delivered a solid 30-plus minute interview on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. One of our best yet. More to come on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Are you that wrestling fan looking for that perfect television package to meet your needs? Well, Real Aid Media has the perfect option for you. With the Wrestling Box promo, you pay for the box for $199.95. After that, you're only paying $29.95 per month with no contracts and no obligations. Real Aid Media also provides marketing services operating in 5 countries. To book an appointment or to get your wrestling package, go to StevenBenzelock.bookify.com. That's Steven Benzelock at bookify.com. Check it out. Real Aid Media, providing great wrestling content for a cheap price. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. This is our main event interview. And this guy is a former world champion, former UFC fighter, and WWE legend. Coming up next, none other than Dan the Beast Severn. Get ready for the big one. All right. Well, this is the Jordan Garber Now podcast. And I have to admit, it doesn't really get much better than this because we are joined by none other than UFC and WWF legend, Dan the Beast Severn. Dan, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you on.
Well, Jordan, thank you for having me on.
Well,
you said WWF, so you should have almost said WWE because WWF would be go to an older audience. WWE is for the more current.
Absolutely. And with our audience, we have a lot of current listeners and a lot of listeners that really enjoyed the old school days. But before we get into all of that and how we highlighted your journey here, how did it all begin for yourself? You know, you were born in Michigan and you were a two-time All-American at Arizona State University. So from that one time you became an All-American, like, did you know what you wanted to do with your path in MMA and wrestling, or did it kind of just all fall in day after day?
I'll just simply say it kind of fell into place, but then also, how does the cliche go? Necessity is the way it truly goes. It says, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, necessity was the father of invention. So I'll just say that in everybody's life, there will be a few dead ends, a few U-turns, a couple yields, a do-over here or there. And it all depends on that type of adversity as to how do you deal with it. And I had to keep a roof over a family's head. I had to keep food on the table, and I did it with opportunities. I mean, I took a sport, as you said, like I took a sport like amateur wrestling, and I was able to utilize that to pay for my education. I have 7 other brothers and sisters. I'm second on the totem pole. Asking mom or dad for money to go to college never even entered my mind, because there was no money to be asked for. We lived on a farm, and there was just enough to take care of clothing and feeding a family of basically of 10 when you add mom and dad into there. So I used the sport of wrestling. I paid for my education. And then it provided me with the opportunity for employment. I went right into coaching at Arizona State, Michigan State. I was approached by some professional wrestling promotions through the mid '80s. I did not turn pro then, because had I turned pro, I would have lost my amateur wrestling status, and it meant too much to me. As of the 1992 Olympics, a new rule came down that allowed athletes to be both amateur and professional simultaneously, as long as you weren't involved in a university program or a high school program, because you would still be governed by the High School Athletic Association rules or the NCAA rules. Well, I was well past my collegiate eligibility, so now I can have my cake and eat it too. I can be a professional wrestler, and I can still represent the United States on world teams, Olympic teams, things of that nature. So, like I said, 1992 is when I turned pro, and by 1994, I jumped into a cage. And that's the only reason anyone knows about me is I climbed into a cage first, and then later for the WWF at the time, now known as WWE. And a lot of followers thought that it was the other way around. They thought I was a cage fighter first, and then I went to the WWE, which, yeah, I did go from the UFC to the WWE, but I was a professional wrestler first. And they used to say, Dan, you're a sellout. You left the real fighting stuff to do this cheesy professional wrestling. I'm thinking, really? I said, you don't know your history then, because I went from being a professional wrestler to jumping into a cage. So, and they seem to think that was okay, but the other way wasn't okay. So a bit of a hypocrite, I would say.
Well, in a way, like it's really interesting because MMA and professional wrestling, they cover very similar things, but two different sides of it. So, when you're working in front of two different crowds and one of them involves acting and reacting, well, whether that's shooting or working at the same time, your preference, and then you're fighting at UFC 4 against Royce Gracie, then like how do you compare those two? Like how do you prepare yourself for both of those at the same time? You're talking about being in like the MLB and the NFL, being in two major companies at the same time or around the same time. So was that a really big adjustment for you, or is it just like you just found a way to get used to it and you just kept going?
Well, I mean, it was I had a very unique contract on both sides. I was non-exclusive to Vince, meaning that I could work for anybody, including, I mean, I was at the time working for the NWA, and I was the NWA champion. And NWA wanted me to be exclusive to them, and I said no. I said, unless you guys are going to pay me to sit home, if I've got opportunities, I'm going to go explore those opportunities. And then WWD, I was working for WWE at the same time, NWA, and then almost any other promotion that would hire me if I had a free weekend at the time. But then I was also doing cage fighting matches. So when I tell people that, I literally, and it's sitting right next to me here, my planner. I've been working out of a planner since my junior year in high school.
Oh, wow.
Now you think about that, because my amateur wrestling schedule was so intense through my spring and summer months that I even had to graduate early and stuff like that. So I didn't graduate my class because I was off in some country doing competition, freestyle wrestling here, Greco-Roman there. I was a mixed martial artist before the term mixed martial artist ever came about. I wanted to be a very successful amateur wrestler, so by my freshman year in high school, I jumped into from being folk style. Folk style is a style that is done predominantly inside the United States. By my freshman year in high school, I jumped into freestyle wrestling. By my sophomore year, I jumped into Greco-Roman. Those are your two Olympic styles: World Championships, Olympic and Olympic Games every 4 years. Then by my freshman year in college, I jumped into judo. I jumped into sambo. Again, these are the grappling arts. So, and then, like I said, just more things came about. And through my career, I jumped into a couple of these tough man contests, some submission grappling matches. And but when you look at what is some of the best skill sets to have, when you look at the Ultimate Fighting Championships today, yeah, I tell people that probably 90 plus, no, 90, higher than that, probably 98, 99% of the time, these matches are going to be ended on the ground. A takedown is going to take place. They're going to end up down on the ground, and it's going to be ended one of three ways. Ground and pound is still the number one way. Ball up your fist much like a club and bludgeon your opponent somewhere on the head, neck, and face area. Number two, a chokehold. Number three, an armbar. I always tell people, don't believe me, look at the stats. I'm a guy that looks at stats to see repeatability on factors. And I always say that if those are your top three offensive moves, then you better learn to defend those three top moves for your defense.
Now let's talk about UFC 4 to something like UFC 200 and up. What is the difference in MMA back then and now? And is it more of a positive change or a negative change, or is it just the same as it was?
Big change. I'd say the biggest change is in the overall quality of the athletes. The athletes have evolved a great deal, whereas in the beginning, the athletes were one-dimensional. I say one-dimensional. I throw myself in the same category. You could have been a boxer versus a Kempo karate guy versus a judo practitioner versus a sambo practitioner versus a sumo. It was more of a freak show. And if you saw both products side by side, you would rather actually watch the product from the past, because it was more entertaining in a sense that there were no rounds. There were very, very few rules. As a matter of fact, there were only 2 rules, those being do not bite your opponent. Rule number 2, do not stick any fingers in their eye sockets, meaning no eye gouging. So you only 2 rules, no weight classes, no time periods. So it was definitely a lot more entertaining to watch David versus Goliath type matches there as well. You could have easily a couple 100-pound weight differences. Now you got people that they're they're half a pound over and they're being docked. I just kind of smile because a lot of the younger competitors, as I said, the sport has evolved a great deal, but a lot of them don't understand that fighting 3 fights in a night.
Oh my!
You have to be very strategic as to how you go through 3 men in an evening. I only say
That's
men
tough.
because women competitors did not exist at this time period, and so I don't know. I think that really is about it. There's a major difference between the two. Will there ever be a tournament format? Yeah, there are some companies that do run a tournament format, but they're not all done in one night. They might run one show this month. They might wait 1 month and they'll do leg number 2, and then another month later they'll do leg number 3. That's how they're doing the tournament format, because your athletic commissioners have stepped in to come up with all these rules and regulations now for the sport of mixed martial arts.
Well, let's talk about some news-making questions here that would pretty much lighten up the wrestling world. Raw has the Raw Underground going on right now, where they did something very similar to what they did in the 90s with the MMA being involved in the WWF, and we'll go into that with the Nwa Invasion Angle. But when it comes to Raw Underground, do you like what they're doing, or do you not like what they're doing right now with it?
Well, honestly, I am aware of it, but I have not actually seen what it looks like there, Jordan. So I really cannot. I can't really answer that question because
it's kind of just like a dumbed down. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say you're talking to a person that I watch very little television at all. Haven't for most of my life. With the internet, for example, I can watch a specific match, and I will do something like that. If I do a lot of appearances at MMA events, I do a lot of appearances at professional wrestling events. I still do professional wrestling matches, and even when I'm at these shows, because I'm talking with other people, I don't get a chance to really watch too much of the actual action that's taking place. But I do watch very specific matches here or there. And that's what I do. I do a lot of match breakdowns for amateur wrestling, but then also for guys who are wanting to get better at mixed martial arts. They'll send me some matches, and then I break it all down as to what I look at is what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and how they should be doing some training. So, getting back to your original question, I'm not the person to ask about that.
Hey, no worries.
The Underground series.
If we don't ask, we don't know there, Dan. But there is one thing you were involved in. That was the Nwa Invasion Angle there in 1998, working with some of the top names in the company. Did you think that was hot or not back in the time? Did you enjoy that debut, or do you think it could have been planned out a little better?
Professional wrestling is very unique in a lot of different ways. I always say that if you could take an MMA fighter and educate them a little bit more in some of the psychological and emotional aspects of how to lead that audience, how to lead that crowd, how to get yourself over, or how to get certain reactions. Because let's face it, a heel is always looking for negative reactions, and the baby face is looking for positive type reactions. How do you do that? Well, you only have basically 3 tools. You have your facial expressions, you have your audio, and most people are never going to hear you unless they give you a microphone, and you got your body language. So you really only have 2 ingredients, and that's basically facial expressions and what you actually are doing out there. So I actually felt like I had an advantage being a professional wrestler first, and then taking the knowledge that I learned from professional wrestling and was able to apply it in the mixed martial arts world. So, I mean, it might be hard to fathom that, but there's a lot of things. There's a lot of psychological aspects that are the same. Vastly two different products, and you've had a lot of professional wrestlers that have proclaimed that they're going to jump into the cage only to have their matches or have their minds change within the next 30 seconds of that. They're short-lived MMA careers, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, I feel like, and it's true, is like people like to act tough and they think they're ready until you actually go in there and you go face to face with an opponent. And I remember I was talking about this with Mitch Clark, who is in the UFC, who wrestles on the Canadian indie scene now. And he was saying, like, it's all different when you're standing across from an opponent who wants to rip your head off. Like, it's hard because when you're in that cage, like, there's no remorse, right? I'm sure you agree with that.
Well, no, there's a huge psychological aspect of it, and I think the thing that I have over most people, or I should say that has been one of my strongest suits in my entire career, is having that positive mental strength. Because like I said early on in this interview, I've only did two training camps in a 20-year career.
Holy crap.
How is that? Okay, how is that possible? And not one single time have I ever sat down in between rounds when rounds started up. Now, again, through the no-holds-barred era, there were no rounds. There was just only one round, and basically that match will end when either one of us are either unconscious or the referee is pulling one of us off of each other, or the doctor intervenes. Again, a lot of your viewers and listeners, they're not going to understand it because they're only used to today's product of mixed martial arts that has rounds. And it has 47 or 49 rules. But if they go back and look at some of these NHB, which stands for no holds barred, having just the two rules, no biting, no eye gouging, no weight classes, no rounds, bare knuckled action, 8-man tournament. You don't get much rawer format than that. And to know that I did 2 training camps, but the psychological aspects, sitting down, who can breathe better? If you're sitting down in a chair and you're kind of hunched over and you got someone in your face, I don't care if they're flapping a towel in your face, something like this, or if I'm standing up, I've got my hands on my head and I'm walking around that cage, who is breathing better? I am, because I'm standing up. I've got my chest expanded. I'm taking in a lot of good air. That's one aspect. But then the other aspect is psychologically, you're in your chair, you're on your stool on the other side of the cage, and you're looking at over across the cage in between this 1 minute round that we have, this 1 minute rest, and you're seeing this guy's not sitting down. And in your mind, you're thinking, he's not tired. How is this possible? So psychologically, I've already created an advantage over you. Even though I'm sucking air from every orifice of my body, there's things that you do that I learned in my amateur wrestling career. You have to learn to impose your will upon another individual, both physically and mentally.
Very interesting stuff, man. We're going to thank you again. We're obviously still have a few questions left, but lessons for this. We have a lot of aspiring people that want to join mixed martial arts, and they can learn from the best now. And
well, they can, but there's a lot of things that you cannot teach an individual. It's like I have a 10,000 square foot training facility in Coldwater, Michigan. I purchased it and because of my love for amateur wrestling. So I was doing it for all amateur wrestling, but then as new things came into my life, when I jumped into professional wrestling, I realized who is teaching these professional wrestlers, because there are just so many things that are wrong with it. A lot of your viewers would not know this, but I actually have a teaching degree.
Oh wow!
I know how to put lesson plans together. Now, Jordan. I'll back up for a second here. I have 4 other brothers. There's 5 males, 5 Severn males. that all 5 of us went to college on full athletic scholarships, all for the sport of wrestling. I had 3 sisters. They went to college on just about full academic scholarships. So out of 8 kids, my parents were very fortunate because they didn't have to cough up hardly anything for having 8 children that went to school. So I always tell people I'm a jock with a brain, and that's a scary cat. There's a lot of dumb jocks, and you read about them all the time because they're doing dumb stuff all the time. Well,
you guys gotta search the name Jordan Garber. But no, you know what? I think it's about living and learning. And, when you learn that hard lesson, you don't do it again. And it's an absolutely amazing thing. And another amazing thing for yourself is you're involved in the hottest era of pro wrestling in 1998. I want to just quickly talk about the 1998 King of the Ring pay-per-view. Why is because you worked 3 amazing talents. You worked D'Lo Brown, actually, which I have a question about later. And then you worked Owen Hart, God rest his soul. And then you worked The Rock. So you're working legends, old greats, and you're working the best of the best. So what are some memories you have with Owen? And not just that, what was some of the chemistry like with not just The Rock, but D'Lo Brown during that incident as well for the European title?
Well, I mean, I'll jump right on D'Lo Brown. I mean, I end up knowing D'Lo Brown on the independent scene before ever being involved with WWE. So that was knowing him beforehand. The beauty of professional wrestling is the first time, if you and I were going to the ring, the very first time will be probably the toughest time that we will have a match together because it's the first time, and I'm not certain exactly what all you do, and you're not exactly what all I do, and it's how light am I, how stiff am I? I mean, there's a lot of things that come into the equation there. I really wish I would have been born into the era of the territories, where you could have worked in the northern part of the United States. You could have been in the southern portion, East Coast, West Coast, and then go over to Japan for a while, go over to a European tour. And then, every time they have this loser leaves town, boom, you're gone. But this internet era has destroyed all of that. So it's, the more times that you work with an individual, the easier it is. All you simply know is how does the match end? What kind of time slot are you looking to fill? And you go, because after you've worked with the same guy 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times or more, because back in that era, you could get away with that. But now, because we have cell phones, we have all this instant gratification. Whatever match you had last night, you can't be doing that same match again tonight.
Everything's different. And I think back then at the house shows, am I correct? Like, they used to be the same finish for most of those matches, like in the 80s. So let's say you have 20 events in a row, 15 out of those outcomes would be the same finish. And
exactly. Again, that's what I said. Now with this internet era and everyone, I mean, you got people that are sitting there in the audience and they've got their cell phone out and they're videotaping it or they're streaming it live. I mean, you hear all these people you've got people at, let's say, the Ultimate Fighting Championships. They might be sitting ringside. They may have had to pay for that seat, but now they're sitting there and they're doing a Facebook Live video right there. They're spanning out to
value.
All of their friends. Exactly. To me, it's like going. So I understand when the people that are putting on these events say that no cell phones are allowed and stuff like that. I can understand where they're coming from. It's almost impossible to enforce because, if you got an arena that holds 10,000 people, somebody's going to be out there holding that cell phone up, taking pictures or taking video. They don't know if they're streaming or not.
Excuse me. No, exactly. And the thing is, too, and just how storylines nowadays, I feel like they're ruined because, there's too much buzz on the internet. And then that's how people form opinions. And then those storylines don't really get a chance to kick because there's so much negative. There's always going to be someone to say something negative about the product because it's the internet and there's millions of people. So just those more negative kind of hurts the business a little bit, especially when people try to expose it the way they do in certain ways.
I will agree with you. There's a lot of keyboard champions that there's a couple times I was involved in interviews, and they were, different people would be coming in there with, they'd just be typing a quick little question, something like this, and every now and then you get this negative one, and I'll simply just say, and and you're the monitor, and you're saying, well, Dan, we got a question from so and so right there, and they ask you a question like this. I go, now I would say, Jordan, delete, let's just move on, and it's like, oh, it's like, wow, Dan, you just kind of squash this person. Well, a lot of people don't. When I was at about to into a quick little story, sidetrack story here to kind of express my point.
Take your time, my man.
This, when I was at the peak of I'll say my MMA career and professional career combined, I was probably getting, I'd say on average 1 to 2 death threats a night.
Oh my!
That were left on my voicemail in my office, because I ran a business, so people would actually call my office and they'd be leaving death threats, stuff like this. Well, I always got at the office before. I had a gentleman that ended up working there, just doing a lot of catch up with emails, stuff like that. So I got in there late one morning because I had some appointments prior to it. I get in there and he's white as a ghost. His name was Mark. I go, Mark. I go, what's the problem? He's like, dude, you got a death threat on your voicemail. I go, well, play it. And he plays it, and it, again, same stuff I've heard before. I go, without me even looking, I said, I bet you that voicemail came in somewhere between, I'll say, 11 and maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And he looks, he goes, well, how'd you know? I go, when do the bars let out? No matter where you're at in the United States, something like this, it could be 2, 3, 4 hours time difference. I go, when do the bars let out? I said, also, the person was a dumbass. They called and left a voicemail. Why don't you call him right back up and just say, sorry, Dan can't fit you in today to kill you, but he can squeeze you in come tomorrow between 2 other people he's got to kill right now in the process. And he goes, I said, I got all the stuff I could do if I want to give this to the cops, something like this. Because otherwise, I go, don't waste my time with it. This little button that calls right here, go delete, and he's gone. That's how I handle that. Gone, I move on. Whereas some people, they lose their mind about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. One opinion can affect many others. And speaking of opinions here, this actually led to your departure from the WWF. If you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. But you're supposed to actually join the Ministry of Darkness. That's all I'll say. You were not happy, and you actually wanted to leave the company because they wanted to do something with you and the character. Can you kind of elaborate on that, if you wish to?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was you have. WWF has a creative team, same way that WWE still has that same creative team, that they're looking for different ideas as to how to get your career going either better or how to sustain it longer. And the cycle of a lot of professional wrestlers is going from the baby face to a heel, back to the baby face. It just all depends on where you started from in the first place. Well, I mean, I was simply just known as Danny B. Severn. I had Jim Cornette. I really enjoyed having Jim Cornette as my mouthpiece because, Jim's very, Jim isn't very, he gets very emotional as he's talking about this kind of stuff. But I mean, the thing you got to love about Jim Cornette is he talks, you can actually see the child in him come out. The person who fell in love with professional wrestling all those decades ago, you can almost see that enthusiasm that comes out of him, how passionate he is about professional wrestling. And, so he basically was, my handler. He would walk out to the ring carrying a couple belts. I would have always one around my waist, one on my shoulder. And he was great to have to tell who I am and what I'm about to do to individuals. And so, again, talking about that King of the Ring, now a change of directions. Now they want me to have 666 across my forehead, mark of the beast. And just like you said, they wanted me to become an Undertaker disciple and Ministry of Darkness. And I'm like going, time out, guys, not going to happen. I live in small town USA. I'm not going to have repercussions to my family, nor to my businesses, nor to myself. And I go, you don't realize how many people buy into this.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't need that. I said, besides, if I do this, and in the middle of all this, you guys decide to let me go, that'll be the last thing people remember of Dan Severn. And they'll be like, Dan Severn lost his mind. Some of that ink of 666 has penetrated his brains and he's warped his brain cells. I go, no, I'm not going to have that. And then all of a sudden, one of the road agents says to me, he says, well, Dan, we could use you poorly.
Oh, boy. So they try to put you in these shitty situations on purpose, it seems.
Yeah, well, okay, but I go, what do you mean by that? They said, well, Dan, we could have you start losing matches. Oh, I said, you can ask me to lose a match, but where does it state anywhere on my contract I have to lose to anybody? What if I walk into your world of fantasy and I turn fantasy into reality? Which one of your so-called stars is going to hold a candlestick to me?
Oh, boy.
But that's when
a little harder now.
Well, again, I mean, I'm a nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
You want to start pushing me? Well, sooner or later, I'm going to push back.
So was the locker room scared of you during this time? Because you were really upset, like near your departure? Was the people a little edgy with you?
No, I don't think they really. Most of them probably did not, weren't aware of it. Wasn't part of their business. The thing about professional wrestling, especially for a company like WWE, you got what 7-8 different storylines that are taking place because we cannot put all of our eggs into one basket. If we have you and we got a great storyline going with you, and all of a sudden you get hurt. I mean, you get hurt for real. We're screwed. We have to know that each month there is a monthly pay-per-view that we're preparing for. So you have all these vast different storylines. And that's again, there's a lot of great creativity. The showmanship. I give professional wrestling a lot of kudos for the awakening of the imagination. There's a lot of good business things I learned from it. There's a lot of creativity I learned from it that I did not think I possessed, and I did apply that creativity and that business savvy to my cage fighting career. Because again, I always tell people I was a professional wrestler first, and then I was a cage fighter.
And that's a hard transition, I feel. Wrestling.
Well, transition. Okay, as you stated earlier, there was no transition. I would be doing a cage fight one night. I'd be doing a professional wrestling match the next night, and there were some days that I would be on the road 20 some odd days out of 30 days a month. I'd be waking up, and I would be, as I'm rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, I'm looking around the hotel room. I actually had to pull out my planner to look at it to realize where am I at and what is my function tonight. Am I a professional wrestler tonight? Am I a cage fighter? Am I doing a wrestling clinic with kids? Am I going to be working with adults? Am I doing a women's self-defense seminar? Am I doing a speaking engagement? Am I doing an autograph signing? I mean, it was. I'll say it was crazy, but crazy still exists. I always tell people I have about probably, I'll say, a dozen or more jobs. Even during a pandemic, where most people are losing their mind because they're sitting at home doing nothing, I'm losing my mind because I'm still trying to do 10 or 12 different jobs. But now I'm trying to do it all through the internet, through Zooms, through phone calls, emails, text messages, messenger messages, both filtered and non-filtered. I can't keep up with all the different ways that we're trying to communicate with people.
Overall, like before we actually talk about your seminars and what you offer to the world and our audience, what was just your best UFC fight? Whether that was against Shamrock, Gracie, Abbott, anybody? Like, what was your best UFC fight and the best event? From start to finish in your MMA career.
I hold a couple different records when it comes to mixed martial arts. And then if you want to look at the top company, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, and for the UFC, I am the only Triple Crown champion in the world. Triple Crown meaning that I won one of their normal 8-man tournament events that they were holding back during that no-hold barred era. I ended up winning one of their super bouts. They started to break away from the tournament format because they were seeing how many times that the tournament format people were getting hurt, so that you might win your first match, but you cannot continue on in the tournament. And then also I ended up winning their ultimate, which at the time they were looking to run this multiple, but it didn't fare that well. The ultimate was when they brought back the best of the best. They threw them all back into this 8-man tournament, and I won that. So out of the distinction of winning 3 different things, being the first and only Triple Crown champion ever, I hold 2 other distinctions of UFC number 5 coming back and destroying a field of 3 men in the shortest amount of time. Then to come back in the ultimate when they brought back the best of the best. And I was inside of that octagon cage just over 1 hour. Now think about being in a cage, and there's only 2 rules: no biting, no eye gouging. And with my 3 opponents, I was inside the octagon cage just over 1 hour between my 3 opponents. And this was in Denver, Colorado, so it's mile-high elevation. And I did say that was one of the 2 things I trained for. I trained for 35 days for that event. But my cardiovascular was off the chain.
All right, let's get this one out of the way here. How I met you is through your appearances with CWE here in Winnipeg and through Brent Brooks and the training seminars that you've been doing. And you've been doing wrestling seminars, MMA and submission seminars. I obviously it sells itself why people should be going to these seminars. But, how much do you enjoy doing it and just teaching the new generation? Like, that must be really, really awesome for you. After everything you've done, now you're passing it along.
No, I've been doing it real long. I mean, I always tell people that I started my amateur wrestling career in 7th grade, 1969. I mean, you start doing math, okay, when you think about 1969, holy moly, that was a long time ago. But I learned it through the school system, physical education program. But now if you go back and look at what is offered in today's schools, physical education, it's a joke. What they're pulling off. Most time, I'll say 20 to 30% of the class does not even dress up now, and we wonder why we live in a world where we have so many obese people, because we're not teaching physical education. We're teaching people to pull out their cell phone and play thumb wars, basically, because they can text with 2 thumbs. They got probably nice and skinny thumbs tied to a big old fat body there because they can't do nothing else. But it's I don't know. I can't even say anything I think positive about what you just asked me right there. It's ask me the question again. I went off on a tangent.
Yeah, no problem at all. What are some of the biggest benefits to yourself as a trainer and a mentor for those MMA seminars? What's the objective?
Well, again, me, I'm trying to inspire, but I hate to say it because I'm a reality person. There's a lot of guys say, well, do I have what it takes to be a cage fighter? Do I have what it takes to be a professional wrestler? And if I just use just those 2 things, professional wrestling, I've already told you a few things that I like about professional wrestling, the creativity. What I really like about professional wrestling is when something goes wrong. The ring breaks, a rope breaks, something mechanically goes wrong, or there's an injury or something like this. How the talent, whether it be one of them or both of them, how they are able to, on the fly, cover everything up so that the fans are not aware of what took place, or how they can use the rope broke. So now the guy, the heel might grab the rope and they might actually start wrapping around his opponent's neck and start choking with him. I mean, I love it when something goes awry and now they have to fly by the seat of their pants and pull a match out. I love that aspect of professional wrestling. A lot of people, they'll learn a lot from me, whether it's in a professional wrestling seminar, a mixed martial arts seminar, submission grappling, because I teach very simple concepts, but these are concepts that when people hear about them, they're like, wow, that made so much sense. But we live in this magical, mystical martial arts world where you got some people that are like, they're actually, they think they can actually throw chi power at you. And I'm like going, you've been drinking your own Kool-Aid for how long here now? And now you're starting to believe your own crap. I mean, it's crap. And then I've actually told individuals it's crap, but not usually around other people, just to them, because I'm thinking, if you're teaching crap and people are paying you to teach you crap, I don't want to poop on you for if that's how the only way you can make your money. But just don't pull me in to validate what you're serving up, because it's still crap. But I don't know what else to tell you right now. It's my seminar
crap on a silver platter.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of bullshit just in this world. You have to really learn how to decipher through a lot of the bullshit. I teach a lot of common sense applications where common sense does not pertain. But again, that's only because I've been a mixed martial artist for so many decades before the term mixed martial artist was ever brought up. And actually, the gentleman that brought up the term mixed martial artist was a gentleman by the name of Jeff Blatnick. Who was Jeff Blatnick, who was working for the Ultimate Fighting Championships, but Jeff Blatnick was also a gold. He was a medalist in the Olympic Games. I think in the 1984 Olympic Games is what he was a medalist. So I've known Jeff for quite a few years.
That's crazy. And anything you could share with Jeff, any crazy stories or anything that you could throw? Because that guy's an innovator, right? Like, if you have any stories with innovation, then that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't say I've been around long enough to hang out there with Thomas Edison or anything like that. But, I like to, well, I mean, it's kind of like, well, there's a lot of political unrest right now in the world, but then especially inside the United States. You see, and we have an election that's coming up. Our presidential election is coming up, and people are losing their minds.
Oh, it's going crazy.
Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're Republican, whether you're neither of the above, but you got people that they're voicing their opinion left and right, and to me, there is so much vast stupidity on both sides, into the middle. I have no future for politics. Could I actually have people all the time like, Dan, you need to run for office. I go, no. The world's not ready for someone like me, because can I get stuff done? Oh, yeah, I can get stuff done. You will not like my method of my madness, but I'll get it done. And but what boggles my mind, Jordan, more than anything is when I see literally the millions and millions, and literally it goes into the billions of dollars that are squandered on getting people elected. I mean, the smart thing is you should only be allowed, if you're going to run for an office, you should be allowed only these many times to speak your piece, and you have a budget of only this much money. Inside the United States, we have got billionaires backing different people left and right, and millions of dollars being thrown away on commercials stupid commercials endorsing stupidity on both sides, on both sides and in the middle. And the same money could be spent on lowering our deficit. It could be spent on feeding homeless. It could be educating. Well, again, I don't like about all this feeding the homeless stuff like this, because you're homeless for a reason. Because I have people all the time that hit me up, they're like, Dan, can you spot me this much money or something like that? And I'm like going, don't you have family? And they'll go, yeah. I go, have you asked your family to do this for you? Yeah, but they won't. That speaks volumes to me. And then you expect me, a stranger, simply just to reach in my pocket and give you something? I'm thinking, if your own family won't help you out, something is wrong with you, and you better fix some of your own lawyering. We live in strange times, and stupidity is running rampant.
Understood. I don't think you could have said it better enough. And like, I've been in situations where I've asked my parents for help, and you know what? At first it's hard, but you got to convince them. You got to give people a reason to help you. And just like yourself, if you help that one person, then there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of people crying to you because you're a figure, and you can't give everyone the same $100, or it's impossible. So I think people need to look at themselves in the mirror before they can judge others. I think that's the way I look at it.
You know, I always say this. You know when things are going wrong. Don't wait till it's too late to start making some changes. I mean, everyone controls their own destiny, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's not like you were driving down the road and someone hit you broadside with another automobile. Those are freakish type of accidents. Usually most people know if they're starting to have some financial troubles. A lot of people know, well, gee, I just got let go from work. I better not be sitting around drinking up a storm and the whole 9 yards, because that's not going to help me out here whatsoever. So there's a lot of things that you could do preventive-wise, but then also there's a lot of people in this world that they barely eke by in the first place. You know, so it's kind of like, you know, I don't know what else to say. I don't want to come across being so negative. But my aspect is that I'm a realist, and I tend to grab a lot of people by the scruff of the neck, and I will shove their face into the cow pie of reality.
Oh, exactly. And my reality, you can agree with me or disagree with this. It's actually a very brave step up for me to ask for this question, but you know, performing now, you know, you've wrestled in Japan last year, and you've wrestled across the world in the 90s, where the era was the hottest. Now, from someone himself, I've said this on Facebook, wrestling is dying right now. You've performed in the Attitude Era. You've performed in the hottest, and now you've performed in an era where it's not so hot. Do you agree with that statement? Is wrestling declining right now, or is it actually slowly advancing? Pro wrestling.
I think there's different aspects of the product are declining. There is a movement right now for a more reality-based professional wrestling product. I think like professional wrestling goes through cycles, just like almost anything else does. It's not, I think when I was growing up, I enjoyed, you know, the bigger than life characters. I enjoyed watching, you know, Georgie Animal Steel, people like that, Leap and Larry Shane. You know, there's Frenchie, the guy that literally his manager they would set a cement block on his head, and the guy would swing what was look like a sledgehammer, would smash a cement block on top of the head. The guy would go out to wrestle. I'm thinking, you know, it boggled my mind to watch that kind of stuff. And then there was, you know, watching professional wrestling. It made you always wonder, it's like going, in professional wrestling, do they always hire some of the dumbest people in the world to be referees? Come on now. The fact that this referee
don't do that to me.
Never seen. I'm not trying to push your boss. I know you got referee shirt
I know, I'm just bugging you.
But I mean, there's what I love about professional wrestling. It's a 3-ring circus with a side freak show on a professional wrestling card. There might be 7 or 8 different matches, whether there's tag team matches, singles matches, ladies matches, midget matches, giants. I mean, there's something there for everyone. Good guys, bad guys. Like I said, there's a little bit of something for everyone. And But as I said earlier, I kind of wish I would have been born into that territorial era, or back in the era in the true carnival days when professional wrestling was only being done at the carnival,
like
carnival
George
fairs.
Schmidt, Frank Gotch, those guys.
Yeah, so now when you got the announcer out there in the ring, and the announcer saying, "Any man, woman, or child that can last 5 minutes in the ring here with the champion will get $10,000." That was a shoot that the announcer was saying, knowing that whatever poor slob was going to climb to that ring, the champ was going to put down hard and fast. So when Billy Bob goes back up in the crowd, bloodied, battered, and bruised, all the locals thought, well, it's got to be real. Look what just happened to one of our own. But you can't do that nowadays because we live in this, this sue happy society. If I just look at you really mean like that, you're like, oh my God, I have emotional,
trauma.
I've got emotional issues. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I'm like going, wow.
It wasn't like that 40 years ago, and I kind of wish I was in that era because, I feel like there's a lot of babying in wrestling, and there's times it's my fault where wrestlers have been holding my hand, and it happens a lot now. Back then, no one was holding your hand. It was, did you have it or did you not? Yeah,
you had to survive pretty quick back. Yeah, it's but I mean, there's still plenty of opportunity because there's what I do like is there are a couple other organizations that are putting out a nice product. And it gives professional wrestlers and everyone around it additional opportunities because not everyone's going to be a talent inside that ring. There are people that are going to be, they'll be the valets, they're going to be the spokesperson they're going to be the referees, they're going to be the people that are going to be setting up, they're going to be people that are going to be tearing down. You always got to have a film crew that's working things. There are so many. I was really impressed when I was working for the WWF at the time during the Attitude Era. What I was really impressed was as I would be arriving at this building, it was almost like a military operation. You had that semi-tractor trailer that pulled up there, and you had people going every different direction, just stringing lines of cable all over the place. And then they would go in and they would take a piece of paper and they would write on it, Vince's office. They would just tape it on the wall with an arrow in this direction, talent be heading back in this direction. I mean, it was, they weren't defacing nothing. They just put all these signs that would be up different places as you walked in. Locker rooms this way, cafeterias that way, Vince's office down this way. And then you get down there, then there'd be a sign, Vince's office here, cafeteria, keep on going that way. It was amazing how they would show up. They being the people that actually had to put the ring together, set all the camera equipment on up, and in preparation thereof, and they were doing this night after night. It really very, very impressive to watch that. Now cameras are much more lightweight and a lot more things. You don't need all the cables and stuff like that. But so it's a lot different. The product, it's easier to do now, and you have a chance now to stream things on an international, worldwide basis.
What were some of the common question, but it should be asked. What are some of the highlights of working with Vince McMahon, if you could name out a few, and what were some of the not so good highlights, if you wish to answer?
Well, I mean, highlights. Well, I mean, I looked at it that I was working for the number one company in the world. I kind of just, that's where the fact that I was the holder of the NWA title belt. I was being brought in to work with the number one company in the world was the WWF. I mean, the WCW still existed. During that Attitude Era, what I liked is, I had to rephrase that, WCW was actually, in the ratings, was beating out Vince. And it made Vince, it made the creative team have to push harder to produce a better product to get more fans. And I actually think during the Attitude Era, they were pushing the envelope in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of great creativity that was taking place there as well. It was a fun era. There was a bit of electricity, and to see that. a lot of people didn't realize I was being trotted both by WCW. I met with Ted Turner, Eric Bischoff, as well as working with Vince McMahon, and so.
Awesome stuff.
But I always tell people that I was able to hold two belts because I had the NWA belt, and I was able to have the NWA belt carried out to the UFC Octagon. As far as I know, I'm the only professional wrestler ever to have a professional wrestling title belt carried out to the Octagon, and then I ended up winning UFC number 5, and I'm the only guy to ever hold up both title belts simultaneously inside the Octagon. About close to 20 years before Brock Lesnar ever came along. So I was prematurely, 20 years before Brock.
Well, you know what? For someone like yourself to have one of the best in mixed martial arts and, I have to say in professional wrestling as well, it's really great having you on and sharing your insights. So if say someone wants to get some advice from you, just get started, become the next big thing, how can they get in contact with you, and how can people follow your projects from Canada, from New Zealand to Japan?
Well, the best thing I can tell them is just go to my website. My website is simply dansevern.com. Severn is spelled Severn, dansevern.com. It is, you'll see my website. You'll see a bunch of articles. It is being revamped as we speak here right now, and it's going to be probably another 30 to 60 days before it gets done. But it will get done. And I do have all my social media outlets are located there as well. And if you want to contact me, there's even an email address there that you can. It's in place if you want to call. If you want to email me for potential seminar, potential Q&A session, potential UFC hosted event, something of that nature. Because with the coronavirus, a lot of your places like the Buffalo Wild Wings and the Hooters and Applebee's, places like that, they're all so social distance, stuff like that, where I'm having a lot more success just by going to people's man caves. They have a nice man cave, and to where now, again, it's a very select, small audience. Exactly. As long as you got a flat screen TV somewhere.
Love it in here.
And so, yeah. So, again, it's I'll just say that even though I'm an older Dan Severn today, I'm still staying really quite busy, and that's one thing I am very grateful for, the fact that when I started back in 7th grade 1969, just over 5 decades later, wow. I'm still doing a lot of the same things. The fact that I'm teaching, coaching, and to be very fortunate, I'm still physically able to. The fact that I'm not all beat up, you don't see any. I mean, I'm not all cut up with stitches and stuff like that. And my nose has never been broken. Teeth, although crooked, they're still originals. I mean, it's I've lived kind of a charmed life. When you look at how many matches, whether it's MMA, professional wrestling, this, amateur wrestling, that, I've been very lucky in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. It's certainly good for yourself to wake up and feel good. And not just thank you for this podcast interview, but thank you for everything you've contributed to mixed martial arts and professional wrestling. Without yourself, the scene wouldn't be as big as it is today. So I just want to thank you. Yeah. You deserve that thank you, and you deserve that respect, Dan.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll do this down the road when we get something going up in your area, and people there in Winnipeg will get a chance. I've been to Winnipeg, I think, a couple times before.
Yes, CWE and Mike Davidson, who is on this show, one of my best friends in pro wrestling. You've worked for CWE against some great talent here in Winnipeg, so you're familiar with it up here, and it's a growing scene here as well.
Yep. Well, again, that's right. If I make it up there, I can actually work something with do a little amateur wrestling with this freestyle wrestling, and/or a lot of people realize I actually work with all first responders as well. So I work with law enforcement, corrections, air marshal, border patrol, military. All of them have some sort of a ground combatives program. And I always tell people I have never been none of the above, although a lot of people think I am like a military or law enforcement because I do have that Duggan do right chin and I have the mustache, so I look like one of them. But no, I just, I'm very disciplined. Like I said, living out of a planner and just the way that I continue to do so many different things. And people are like, well, why do you stay as busy as you do? I go, we're all going to grow old and we're all going to die. You will grow old a lot faster if you simply sit on the sidelines and watch life pass you by. I plan on engaging the game for as long as I possibly can before I become a spectator of life.
Well, Dan, it was great having you on the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and I wish you nothing but the best for you and your family.
Newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
You heard them. Use promo code PowerSlamNow. Well, there you have it. You heard it from the man himself, Dan the Beast Severn. That might possibly be one of the greatest interviews in the history of the Jordan Garber Now podcast. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Without you guys, there is no show. And listen to us every single Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Among others as well, try Deezer and Podcast Addict and Breaker. So many platforms, one great podcast. Have a good night.